The PBA Tour enters its final event before the holiday break. Young and old alike have rolled through the exempt field, winning titles and trophies along the way. Winter's cold has not stopped the bowling on tour from being hot. From Hall of Famers to youngsters, everybody looking for a little holiday magic to get to the winner's circle. With holiday wishes abound, we'll find out what gifts await in the great state of New York. Coming your way next.
That's right.
From AMF Babylon Lanes in West Babylon, Long Island, New York, it's the Columbia 300 Classic. ESPN wraps up live coverage of the first half of the 06-07 Denny's PBA Tour season. Here is the 5-man step ladder bracket. Local hero Michael Fagan looking for his first title, and 24-time winner Norm Duke go head-to-head in the first match. The winner climbs the ladder to meet Joe Ciccone of Buffalo, searching for his first PBA crown. Tommy Delutz Jr. awaits the winner of that as the 2-seed, overcoming a serious injury to return to TV. And Ryan Shafer is the king of the hill. He is the top seed. Hello, bowling fans. Welcome to Long Island. Glad you could join us today, and happy holidays to everyone. Dave Ryan, Chris Barnes alongside, along with Randy Peterson. Chris, glad to have you back on the show after a couple weeks off.
Well, it's good to be back. I didn't bowl very well this week, so it's 90 minutes in the sin bin for me.
90-minute penalty. We're glad to have Chris on the show today. Randy, PBA history made today. For the first time ever, 4 bowlers from New York State make one show.
Well, as the great Billy Joel once sang, we're in a New York state of mind. Starting with Ryan Shafer from upstate New York, Elmira. Tommy Delutz Jr. just down the road about 30 minutes from Queens. Joe Ciccone, another upstater. And Michael Fagan, who actually grew up in this area, bowled a lot in this bowling center as a kid. But let's not forget the future PBA Hall of Famer, Norm Duke.
So, Chris, our top seed is Ryan Shafer. It's no easy matter, as you know from personal experience. Stepladder format the last 2 years. The top seed is 0-8.
Yeah, the top seeds have struggled. Ryan's going to have to be on the bench for 70 minutes. He's going to wait. Momentum will be all against him. He'll have to rely on his voodoo roll this week if he's going to get it started and take the title today.
And Randy, you talk about an inspirational story. It's got to be Tommy Delutz Jr. Career-threatening injury with his wrist. He's back on TV today.
Without question, the toughest thing for any athlete to endure is trying to come back from an injury. I can relate after having knee surgery in 1991. For Tommy Delutz, he shredded the tendon in his right wrist. He was a top 10 player before his injury. Now, 2.5 years later, he says he's fully recovered, and the proof is in the pudding. 5 top 10 finishes in a row for Tommy D.
Randy, we're on the shark pattern, longest, hardest pattern of the non-majors, the 5 PBA Tour patterns. Now, earlier, Randy and Chris got together to break down the shark pattern.
Traditionally, the shark pattern has favored the power players because of all the oil in the outside part of the lane, Chris. That forces the guys to play the middle. And if you're going to play that deep inside line, you better have a lot of power.
And along with that this week, the guys used lengthier drillings, higher response bowling balls, slow speed, and a lot of tilt. I'm going to show you how they did it.
Great shot, Chris. But I'll tell you what, it's no big surprise that Ryan Shafer led this tournament because he's got all of those ingredients you just spoke about, plus he loves to play the middle part of the lane. But the one thing that the players have showed us this week is that there may be more than one way to catch a shark.
Well, that's right. Right of 8 at the break point is out of bounds, but if you can get it going right to left at him from outside, you can play out there too. Guys do it with either very low rev rates or they do it with no tilt at all to keep it on line. We'll show you how they did it. Norm made his big move in round 3 playing right there, and I think his best chance to go up through 4 matches and win title number 25 is if he can find a look from there.
And if that goes their way, Chris, look for the very versatile Norm Duke to jump to the middle part of the lane and join the feeding frenzy with the other big power players.
All right, fellas, great breakdown of the shark pattern. How about some shark tails for you? Low scores all the way through. Just 300 games, including Rudy Kazamaskis, who had a very nice start to this tournament, was the leader early on, but did not qualify for the show. We will see how the scores break down as the lanes break down. And for the first time ever on TV, Michael Fagan from right here on Long Island will go head-to-head with a legend, Norm Duke, who's won 24 Denny's PBA Tour titles. With Kathy and Ralph making the quick commute, about a 20-minute drive or so from Green Lawn south to here in West Babylon on the island. And they watch their son get some help on the 10 as it goes down late. Good start, Michael Fagan.
Chris, you hit the nail right on the head when we were talking about this pattern. One thing that Michael Fagan is not lacking is power. How does he create all of the revolutions and all of that hook?
Well, he's got the most unique roll on tour. His access point's only about 3.5 inches. Most of us are around 5.5 inches. It's a very low track, but he covers a large circumference, and his rev rate's up around 500 RPMs.
There's Norm Duke. Good start for the Floridian, who is Randy's neighbor, along with Jason Couch, all from Claremont, Florida, near Orlando. Randy, break down the matchup. Ace hardware matchup today.
Well, on paper, this is a David versus Goliath matchup. Norm being the Goliath? Well, in the bowling world he is, but take this into consideration. Michael Fagan's looking for his first title ever, and remember that Norm had to beat Earl Anthony for his first ever title.
That came back in 1983. Norm was the youngest ever, still the youngest ever, at 18 years old in Cleveland to win a tour title. 10-pin for Norm. Now, Chris, want to break down the X's and O's early. Norm using the high-friction surface ball in practice to try to carve his path to the pocket. He's going from the outside, isn't he?
Yeah, like we talked about in the open, Norm played out, and when he had a look out, he had something no one else had. He used that high-friction ball in practice, 360 grit on it, used it for about 15 minutes. I'm not sure he got it all the way where he wanted to, but he got it close enough to be able to use the same ball.
He will stay perfect. Single pin conversion numbers this week. Norm, a tremendous season last year. We talked about leading the tour in TV appearances, but only winning the one show. He made 7 shows last year. As he's told us already, he's 1 for 1 after a victory in Hammond, Indiana. It's already a better season for him. Not a pure 1-3 pocket hit there for Fagan in his second frame.
And the key for men is you have to watch your ball speed. You get too firm, which is easy to do with a really high backswing. I don't care what your rev rate's like. This is what happens. The ball goes right through the break point, and luckily for Michael Fagan, he leaves the 4-8.
Could have been worse for him. 2-2. Whoa, he chops the 8-pin. He hoped for 2. You heard him shout it. And an open frame for the 26-year-old from right here on Long Island.
Chris, do you think it's harder to chop this spare than it is to make it?
No, I'm not sure it is. To be honest, you saw it a lot this week for whatever reason. The lanes are so slick that even going left to right or right to left, the ball would back up, and it wasn't that hard to chop them off here.
For the hometown fans cheering.
A little early, all right? Wait for me to throw it, please.
He gets a strike, and Michael is one of the funnier guys on tour. He's got a lot of personality and makes sure that the fan a little over exuberant there and trying to cheer Michael before he actually released the ball.
It's like a little local action match right there. You got the guy in the back with a little money on the other side.
Yeah. Well, it's a big day for Michael. He's been bowling since he was 6 years old, grew up bowling on these lanes, worked in the pro shop right here in Babylon. He knows the center very well. Back to Norm Duke.
The frozen theater rope right at the 1-3.
Randy, what's Norm got to do to win today?
Well, he's got to make shots like that all day and then hope that that reaction doesn't go away. Because if it does, he's got to jump in with the guys that hook the ball. Even though Norm can, that's their A game. That's what they do best. I think what Norm does best is what he's doing right now. And I think it's apparent because nobody else is out there doing it.
One in Hammond, Indiana this year. Looking good. Norm Duke. His 17th straight year, he's made multiple TV appearances. He's going to go to the equipment bag here, guys. The leader in that category, Walter A. Williams Jr., who's got 21 straight years with television appearances. And Norm 5th in rankings coming into this show. He's had another fine season, leading the tour in average, more than 229. Now Fagan tries to rebound after the open frame. Again, not in the pocket, Chris. 2-pin.
Yeah, the ball just keeps getting right of the 3-pin on that right lane. It's pushing. You can see it start to pick up in the middle lane. And then as it gets partway down, it looks like it accelerates one more time before it hooks. You can watch by his reaction. He knew he needed help from the very beginning there.
Chris, is that a Sarge Easter grip that Michael's using?
Yeah, that's what they call it.
Explain it.
Well, the best I understand it is basically your ring finger is a full conventional grip, and your middle finger is still a fingertip grip. And it's supposed to cut down rev rate a little bit.
Does it change the direction of the rotation, or does it just reduce revs?
I think guys have used it both ways. I think Robert Smith used it to try and lower his rev rate. I think Michael has used it more to try and change his tilt.
Great look from our crew. Grip there for Michael Fagan. Perfect ball in the 1-3 pocket. Boy, right on the screws there. He is down, though, by 22 pins after the open frame early in the match. Second frame for him, and Norm Duke goes for the turkey here in his 5th frame. Norm is used to putting away opponents when the door is open, and it certainly has been early by Michael Fagan. Fagan the 5 seed, Norm Duke number 4, stepladder format.
Right now, Norm Duke's got that, let's stick with the shark pattern theme. He's got that Jimmy Buffett head, or Jimmy Buffett song going through his head. The one that's called Fins. There's fins to the left, fins to the right, and this is the only game in town. And right now, he's the only one swimming out towards that far right portion of the lane and piping it to the 1-3.
Really interested by Norm's strategy. The only guy playing from out here. And so far it's paying off. Of course, the lanes will break down. They will transition. TV lights affect the oil more than anything on the big show. Got it right there, Chris, just a 7-pin.
Yeah, the one thing Norm had to do different today than he had during the week is he took this ball, which is where he played from out, and he had to put a little surface on it. But what it does also is it makes it flatter down lane. And as the lanes transition, if he has to move in, he may lose his carry a little bit quicker than he would have normally.
Well, he's doing what he needs to do, though, and that's keeping the ball into the 1-3 pocket and staying ahead of his opponent in this match. Michael Fagan has failed to double yet, and he's got that open frame in the second. And Norm with a nice lead.
He stays clean. 7-pin for the spare. Norm Duke, Michael Fagan head-to-head first match. The stepladder trying to get to the top seed, Ryan Shafer, and win the Columbia 300 Classic on the island. Happy holidays to everyone from all of us at ESPN and the Denny's PBA Tour. It's the Columbia 300 Classic. Be sure to log on PBA.com, including all the nomination forms for the inaugural Denny's All-American High School Championships. This tournament will be held in conjunction with the Denny's World Championship in Grand Rapids, Michigan, March 24th and 25th, and will crown the nation's top male and female high school bowlers. $10,000 in scholarship money on the line, and the finals of the event will air April 22nd here on ESPN. Nomination forms are due by January 15th, so log on today, PBA.com. So Michael Fagan, guys, down by 31 pins on essentially his home lanes. Worked in the pro shop here as a teenager when he was 16. Has competed here many times, junior tournaments, regional tournaments. He's in a hole to the great Norm Duke. Like that one, though, Chris, all the way.
Yeah, he liked that one much more from the very beginning, and his angles are just tighter. He balls closer to the head pin all the way through the lane and gives a chance to make a corner down lane.
It also looked like he used a little Faganomics the last 2 shots where he wasn't afraid to get on it at the bottom of the swing and make his ball hook.
Faganomics, huh?
That's right.
That. He was a finance major at St. John's, so economics, Faganomics. He told us yesterday he's not used the finance degree at all yet. He wants to be a bowler. That's his full-time profession. But nice to have a degree to fall back on for sure. A little high there, Chris, and a split.
Well, it looks like he went after all of this one here. It looked a lot like the shot before, but that right lane's got him crossed up on both. Now he's trying to make it hook back on the right lane. Left lane, it overhooks a little bit then. Duke's strategy's paying off.
Split numbers, Randy, 4 out of 20 so far.
He's got to get the ball to the left side of the 4-pin and slide it over. Very makeable for the professionals.
But he can't do it. And the 9 stands for Michael Fagan. A second open frame. Look at the deficit. Ballooned to 35 pins just like that. Duke to the 7th frame now, working on a spare. And if the door was open before, Chris, with the early open in the 2nd frame from Fagan, it's now wide open for Norm Duke.
Well, they've just about put a wedge in it now, so it can't shut.
Almost had some help across the deck with a scout there for the 10-pin. Just needs that single pin conversion to stay clean. Now, since 2000, guys, he has made 31 TV appearances. How about that? He is tied for 3rd with Ryan Shafer. Who has more? Walter Ray has got 41, and a guy named Chris Barnes has 40. Not bad, CB. Tremendous experience. Look at that. Since the year 2000. The great Walter Ray Williams Jr., now the Denny's PBA Tour title record holder at 42. It's a lot of TV, Chris.
Well, not enough wins on there, but I'm glad to be making some appearances.
You got to be on TV to win it. That's pretty hard in this sport. There's Norm with a strike. As he edges toward a win here in the stepladder format, they're trying to climb the ladder and get to the 3 seed, Joe Ciccone. Tommy Delutz Jr. back on TV, first time since January of 04, nearly 3 years after a wrist injury has sidelined him. He's a 2 seed. Ryan Shafer, our number 1 seed from Elmira, New York. Been a long stretch for Ryan not winning. Some history will be made today. The light mixer hit there. The paralyzer goes down. And Fagan a strike.
Mike Fagan can strike out for 214 right now. Norm is going at a 218 clip, meaning if he spares and strikes 9th and 10th. So Michael Fagan's only chance is to keep striking and hope that Norm runs into some trouble.
Pretty good year for Michael Fagan, but he must be very disappointed in front of the home crowd to falter here against Norm Duke. And a double wood with 2-8, and he just, Chris, has not been able to find a clear path to the pocket on either lane.
Ball reaction.
Yeah, he didn't like this from the beginning. This one's off his hand, and it's a makeup shot from the last one where he caught a whole handful of it. This one gets a little bit firmer. It gets past the spot. He's pretty much living in my world from this week right now.
Better you than me.
Takes care of the double wood nicely and does cover for a spare. He does a lot of his bowling practice at Farmingdale Lanes on the island, not far from here, where he told us that the staff there will let him do what he wants with the oil machine so he can simulate the PBA patterns.
Well, Michael has probably become more versatile on a percentage basis than anyone else on tour this year.
Even more than Wes Malott.
Probably more so than Wes Malott, although Wes is certainly seeing much better, more results.
Let me ask you a question now, Chris. Norm gets up in the 10th frame. The match is basically all but over. Does Norm now experiment? Does he move to the inside? Does he look for something else? Or do you think where he's at is good enough to win another match?
I think he feels like that outside is just getting better and better for him. I think he's going to get firmer and use that to his advantage and get that spot that he's burning up and use that as his hook and just freeze it in there more.
He is locked in at the moment, and he'll be right back up against Joe Ciccone from Buffalo, New York, who has never won a Denny's PBA Tour title, making his first show of the season. Now, this is interesting. This is our 9th event of the year, Chris. We've had 8 different winners so far. If Norm does take the championship, it'll be the first 2-time winner of the season.
Yeah, he's still got a long ways to go, though, and he's got 3 guys that are great at playing in. And They should just get better and better as the show goes on from in there.
We shall see what strategy Norm takes in the next match. So the week will end here for Michael Fagan, who on Friday in the positioning rounds, the stepladder format, took care of Patrick Healy Jr. It was a raucous house here on the island with all of his family and friends here. A couple hundred were rooting for Michael. It was awfully emotional that day.
Just like I said, he moves in and tries the big wheel from in. Come on. Come on, give me a little kudos there, buddy. Thank you. Now, I'm not saying he's going to move in, because he just shot 240 from out.
Right.
But he's still looked at.
He does experiment, use a different ball there.
How many games do you think Norm can get from the out?
As long as his hold stays there, he can stay there all day, and nobody else is out there to challenge him. It's a really good question. As long as his hold, as long as his mistake area to the left stays put, and he can continually miss left, and the ball holds its line, he can stay there all day.
Disappointing end for Michael Fagan from right here on Long Island, but always a crowd favorite no matter where he bowls. Norm Duke, you can hear the Duke cheers. And Norm has won here on the island before. Joe Ciccone of Buffalo is next up. Step ladder, trying to get to the top seed. Ryan Shafer from Elmira, New York. Joe Ciccone has never won the Denny's PBA Tour. He's got a take on a legend in Norm Duke, who's won 24 times. It's the next match. Come on. Hello and a special thanks to Phil Cardinal, Vice President Sales and Business Development for Columbia Industries. Columbia, title sponsor of our great event today here on Long Island. Step ladder bracket update for you. Michael Fagan has fallen to Norm Duke, our ESPN broadcaster and now star bowler. He's already won once on tour. He takes on Joe Ciccone next. Delutz Jr. and Shafer await the winner.
The PBA is mourning the loss of Cecil Cadell, who passed away recently in Dallas, Texas. Cadell served as the PBA Southwest Region Director from 1971 until 1996 and was instrumental in helping to develop the regional program into what it is today. The PBA sends its deepest sympathies to the Cadell family.
Second match, here's Norm. He's outside again, and he's got a strike. So Chris is staying there.
Yeah, I would expect him to stay there for about one more game. I think the guys will eventually take that away from him by where their ball goes out to on the lane. I think it's going to take away his left eventually. But it might be almost the second game before those ball paths go down and start to move that oil away from his hold line that Randy was talking about.
Good to see Joe's folks here from Buffalo. They've made the trip. Joe originally from Skaneateles, New York, near Syracuse. And a 10-pin. His folks are in the Skaneateles area still. Clarify that. Joe has moved to Buffalo.
And this guy here, Joe Ciccone, is quietly becoming one of the better players out here on the Denny's PBA Tour. He's learned to be versatile. He's learned how to play on all the patterns. And he's a diehard practicer, a historian of the game, and he's really coming into his own. And a force to be reckoned with, I think, Chris.
Yeah, you know, he's a two-time collegiate bowler of the year. This guy has some credentials. He didn't come from just nowhere. He practices hard out here. He's worked really hard on getting better at the things that work here on tour, and it's paying off. He's consistently been a good finisher and solid week in, week out.
Chris, a four-time All-American in college. 2 years at Erie Community College in New York State. 2 years at Arizona State, out in Tempe. Rookie of the Year on the PBA Tour in 2000. He's won 7 regional titles, but never on the big tour. Maybe that changes today. No help on number 10.
2 pretty good shots to start with, Chris, and ring 10 and then the little half pocket there. But the good sign, I think, is that he actually went light on the left lane. I think the left lane hooks more than the right.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And it looks like, I like his look better than Michael Fagan so far.
Why?
Because he's a little bit closer to the head kick. Michael's look was based off speed. adrenaline's running through. It's so hard to get soft enough like you talked about, especially with his high backswing. He threw it past the break point 2 or 3 times. It was so sensitive this week. It was just really easy to do. And I like Joe's look. His break point is closer to him, and he's going to control the pocket better.
Second show of the year, Norm Duke tries to take over 9th place by himself on the title list. He'll do it with strikes like that. Great start for him with a double. He would surpass his buddy Brian Voss for 9th all time by himself. Ace hardware matchup. Well, Randy, very similar to the first one. No titles for Joe Ciccone trying to break through today.
Yeah, it's like a carbon copy. But you know what? He has some TV experience. He was in a title match in Chicago last season that he eventually lost to Norm Duke. He's got a lot of confidence, but that's a future PBA Hall of Famer right here.
Somehow the 4-pin wobbles but does not fall. It was Jason Couch he lost to Joe C in the finals last year. 217-204 when he left a 4-6-7 split in the 9th. That was a tough break for him.
And all of a sudden now we're starting to see a little bit of what you talked about, Chris, and that hold area may start to go away. Or is it a question of Norm just having to bump it in a little bit?
I really think for now he just has to bump it in a little bit. I think that breakdown right there is his own doing from all the dough balls earlier and by just repeatedly hitting the same spot in the first game.
Chris talking about the long practice before the show today. A lot of surface that Norm Duke was using. High friction ball to carve his path to the pocket, keep the others away, going from outside in. The others are going to play inside out here. See how far left Joe Ciccone is. And that's a perfect shot. 1-3 pocket. So, Randy, we have the interesting matchup again of the different strategies.
Well, and we kind of knew this was going to happen if Norm could find a home out, and he has. But Joe made this inside look pretty good. And, Chris, you were especially impressed with what Joe did this week because?
Well, because when we talked about it, Joe doesn't have nearly as much tilt as the rest of the guys. His ball tends to reach sooner on the lane. And all week long, the guys who rolled it more and were a little bit firmer with their speed didn't have very much luck. I was stunned by how well he bowled and how good his matchup was. And I think he just bowled fantastic, actually, because his physical game matchup's not as good.
Double wood. Very much like we saw from Michael Fagan in one of his frames in that first match. And Joe muttering to himself, trying to figure out what he needs to do here, Chris.
Well, this one just looked like it was a little bit firm. It goes another 3 or 4 feet longer.
Now, Chris, when you talk about tilt, what exactly do you mean by tilt?
And when I'm talking about tilt, I'm talking about end over end as opposed to more, side. Like a Pete Weber has a lot of tilt.
A lot of side roll.
Yeah, a lot of side roll, where a Norm, when you watch him, his ball is very end right now, just tumbling down the lane.
2-8. Double wood takes care of it nicely, covers the spare. Joe has gone 126 events without a title in his career, the 5th longest drought of active bowlers. Brian LeClaire has the record by a long shot, 344 and counting. As Connie and Jim have made the trip from Central New York, and hopefully to see a good result here for their son. He started bowling at the age of 2 up in the Syracuse area. Norm Duke has other ideas.
And one of the adjustments that Norm makes from out there is when he starts to see his ball go a little high, he's got another gear he can switch into.
Get a rack here?
Meaning ball speed. As he takes a re-rack on the left lane, he's got some more gears that he can really step it up to in terms of ball speed.
All right, guys, coming up after the holiday break, where are we? Reno, Nevada, H&R Block Classic. 1 o'clock Eastern Time. We go from East Coast way out west. Going to be back in Reno. First time since 2004. National Bowling Stadium. Guys like Walter Williams Jr., Miko Miami have won titles there. Back in 04, back-to-back events we have. All 10 down for Norm Duke.
But just like you said, Randy, he kicked it up a gear. He didn't really move left up the 4-pin. He just amped up the speed a little.
Tell you what, the most winningest player in the history of the tour throws the ball pretty straight. Norm is versatile. He can hook it, he can go straight, but his bread and butter is going straight.
He's got that confident look in his eye, guys.
I just don't understand why more players don't try to do what these guys are doing.
Well, I think that's what has changed the most about the young guys right now. You watch a Wes Malott, who's getting much better at playing straight. You watch Michael Fagan, whose straight game has gotten much, much better out here. And all the young guys are learning how to do it at a younger age because of the match play format. When you go head-to-head, you have to do that, or you can't keep up with Norm, Walter, and the group.
It's been our theme all year long. Young guns like Joe Ciccone. He's trying to win his first ever title. Michael Fagan, his bid for a first championship will fall short today. Against the likes of the legends like Walter Ray. Parker Bone III has made several shows. Walter Ray has a title, Japan Cup, to set the record. Norm's already won once on tour. Be the first two-time winner if he can take this championship today. But our big theme as we wrap up the first half of the season. Holiday break coming, and then January 7th we resume in Nevada.
Norm's sitting there trying to exercise the demons and just keep doing what he's doing, boy. He's giving Joe Ciccone all he wants right now.
There's a strike for Joe Ciccone, who is in the National Junior College Athletic Association Hall of Fame. He's had a fine year, 13th in the PBA rankings, a lot of accolades, but still no title. At least he can smile about it. He's down 21 pins to the legend, Norm Duke. They're climbing the ladder, trying to get to the top seed, Ryan Shafer. Tommy Delutz Jr. also awaits the winner of this match. Here it's match number 2. Step ladder format, trying to get to Tommy Delutz Jr. The 2 seed, Ryan Shafer the top seed. Norm Duke, big lead.
I'm sorry, it just looks so simple. And I mean, Norm is just created something that none of the other players have. And right now, it looks like the only player that's going to beat Norm Duke is Norm Duke.
He's still outside, fellas.
This is one of the things that makes Walter Ray so great, too, is he just doesn't beat himself. I mean, the carry angle's not fantastic, but it's awfully good, and he just hits the pocket every shot, and you have to bowl a great game to beat him.
Chance for a 41-pin lead. You bet. 4-bagger, Norm Duke expands the lead here. And it's interesting, after the great season he had last year, 7 TV shows. That's the PBA Tour best. He led the tour in shows, points, and average. Second to Tommy Jones for Player of the Year honors. But he thinks it was disappointing, Chris, because he just had the 1 title last year.
Well, and that ultimately is how we're all judged by. So understand that the worst feeling out here is to make a show and to lose on TV. It feels worse than bowling bad through the whole week. It's just the worst thing that we have out here.
God, I'm kidding me. He just cannot find the pocket. Another high shot.
And like Michael Vick, Joe Ciccone can't seem to be able to put his finger on why he can't strike enough.
This is the problem for the guys that rolled it most of the week. You have the 4-pin look, you move off of it, it goes light, you get the can opener, gets a strike, but it just made it awful hard. Randy, who do you think has the best type of ball roll for this pattern?
Well, hang on a minute. I'll get to that in a second, but look at what Joe Ciccone did last week. He qualified second this week. Ended up being the 3rd seed, and Joe said it feels like, or he feels real good about what he's doing leading up to the first half of the season. But getting back to what you just said, I think the guys that have the best look on this pattern are Ryan Shafer, Patrick Healy Jr., and Pete Weber. And Pete Weber was the last one to win on this pattern. And I think it's all because of their ball rotation.
After Flomax's weekly update, Joe Ciccone has finally found the path to the pocket he wanted, but he knows it's going to be too late now, down by 41 pins. And Norm Duke, 4-bagger here, 8 frame, unless he completely collapses. He will move up the ladder. He loves the format. He loves getting a lot of games in. The momentum we talked about, a huge factor why the top seed has not won in 2 years in step ladder play. 0 for the last 8. Wow.
My.
Just a repeat shot after shot.
And he makes it look easy, but let me tell you something. If you don't do this and you don't practice or work at doing something like this, it's not easy. That hand position is in a good spot. each and every time. His ball speed is just a mirror image, like Dave just said. Takes a lot of talent to be able to do that shot after shot.
This is what he did in Hammond earlier this year. Went out there and played out and just made him look walled up. And they're really not very easy playing him like that. And he gets in such a good rhythm. It's just pure stroke right there. Even the light shots turn into head pin back across to slap the 10.
That was Hammond, Indiana, where Norm won his 24th career title. Chris, you were with us in the booth for that one. Mika Koivuniemi made the final of that show. Steve Rogers and Michael Haugen Jr. also in that broadcast. And Norm made history that week. First ever bowler to go 14-0 all the way through match play en route to the title. Randy, you went 12-0 along with Chris Hayden, but not 14. Pretty impressive, all those numbers. Randy's last title, Philadelphia. Chris Hayden back in Orlando a few years ago.
Hey, Dave, you remember who I beat for the title there in Philly?
Chris Barnes. Yeah. He had the All-American look going that day.
Speaking of the Michael Vick thing there.
Boy, what a setup that was. Oh, my.
Well now. But one thing that I wanted to point out was, Chris, you see how intense Norm is this early, at this stage of this TV finals. I mean, he still has 2 more matches to win, but I mean, he looks right now like this tournament's over. I mean, he's got that demeanor. He's running them out. He's pumped up. He still has 2 games to bowl.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised because he's really good at pacing himself and keeping his emotions in check. And the one thing you really have to do when you're being that nice to it at the bottom is you have to keep your emotional level down so that you don't yip on one.
So that you don't overthrow or get too amped up.
Yeah.
Well, guys, Joe Ciccone will see the first half of his season end in disappointment without a win. He really wanted to deliver and get his first victory here today. He felt that really would have capped off a good first half for him. Top 15 in rankings. He plans to drive back to Buffalo, a couple days there, and then he's driving out to Reno to keep the car on the road with him. It's going to be a 3-day trip to get to Nevada. And maybe taking a Sabres game in Buffalo, and that's how he'll spend his Christmas break before the second swing starts. There's Norm finishing up this one. It's all over. Norm Duke to the next round. He'll take on Tommy Delutz Jr. in the 3rd match, and there's Tommy from nearby Queens, New York City, another hometown favorite.
Chris, what do you think? Do you think Tommy Delutz Jr. jumps outside and tries to get on the Norm Duke bandwagon?
I don't think so, although by watching the first 2 matches, the right lane hasn't looked all that good. If he can figure out that right lane, he'll play in. If not, I think he may jump out with Tommy. Or with
There's the top seed guys. Ryan Shafer also set for some practice. And they are carefully watching where Norm is going. Sees way inside here for a practice shot, perhaps. Get a feel for that look. And this one is over.
The man with a lot of options.
Where will he go for the next match? Tommy Delutz Jr. awaits the number 2 seed. All smiles for now for the legend Norm Duke, for good reason. How about Tommy Delutz Jr. overcoming a severe wrist injury, torn tendon, nearly ended his career, hasn't been on TV in nearly 3 years, hasn't won since 2001. He returns to TV when we come back to the island. This is the 32nd time PBA Tour has visited Long Island, 3rd at AMF Babylon Lanes. Norm Duke, Tommy Delutz Jr. next in the stepladder format. Randy, let's check in with the Atonic Edge for this week.
Okay. Well, this is all about Norm Duke. Speaking of the Atonic Edge, he's playing the edge. Norm Duke is averaging 255 for his first 2 games, while his opponents are averaging 190.
What a moment this must be, guys, for Tommy Delutz Jr. He's back on TV for the first time since January 2004, Medford, Oregon. Norm Duke has been red hot. Smashing 2 opponents so far. And there's a 4-pin.
Looks like he used a little too much brush on that shoe there.
Yeah, because when you take a wire brush to the sole of your shoe, Chris, it roughs up the surface, and it does make you slow down.
Particularly on the heel. knocking off some of the buildup, which actually helps you slide a little bit. Looks like he knocked off a little bit of it and hit the brakes hard. Again.
Has a single pin spare conversion. And he hopes for multiple titles for the first time since '99. How about it? From nearby Flushing, Queens, New York City, Tommy Delutz Jr., big New York Mets fan. With Darlene, his mom, watching. This just must be some kind of moment for him. He's back on TV with a 10-pin.
You're right, Dave. It really is. This is a good thing. This is really nice to see Tommy D back, and 16 months off of the tour, just barely holding on to his card last season. But I'll tell you what, had a little bit of a back thing going on the first couple of events this season, and ever since then, Tommy has been red hot.
Had some acupuncture done on that, as he was bothered by the back in October. Missed the first 2 events of the year. Ace Hardware matchup. Chris, let's break it down here. Tommy Delutz Jr. on TV for the first time in so long. What are the jitters like for him right now?
Well, he spoke about the first 3 shots when he comes out. He's pretty nervous. He gets pretty amped up, and then he settles into a groove. Right now, these are 2 of the hottest bowlers on tour. One of them we've seen every week with Norm. Tommy's been much quieter about it, but he is building his way up to this moment right now.
He's had a nice season. Several top 10 finishes. Coming off a shredded tendon in his wrist. It was a disastrous injury. Couldn't hold a bowling ball. Has 10 down there. Reconstructive surgery essentially cost him a year and a half between the rehab and trying to come back. And then with just a couple of weeks left in the tour season last year, was able to qualify high enough with the numbers and the rankings, Randy, to make the exempt list this year. It's been a long road for Tommy.
Long, tough road, and like I said at the top of the show, any athlete that goes through injuries and rehab, it takes its toll on you. The unknown of never knowing whether or not you'll be able to come back and compete at this level is very, very tough mentally.
Still outside and still in the pocket is Norm Duke, who himself has overcome pinch nerve issues in his neck and back problems. And we talked about Tommy's great year, Chris. He really has quietly had an outstanding season.
Well, Randy alluded to it earlier. He has 5 top 10s in a row. 4 of them are top 8s now. It's awful tough to do week in, week out with the varying patterns, varying distances, the left to right differences, and the different guys that are good on specific patterns to be that good every single week.
All 10 down again for Norm Duke. And Tommy Delutz, his last win came in 2001. Now, it was on a Long Island event. Everything except the TV show on the island. That was at the Mohegan Sun Resort Casino Arena in Connecticut.
Well, before Randy runs me over on that one, too, he beat me for that title.
I wasn't going to bring it up, but since you did, yeah, he did. That was back in '01 for his championship. Since then, though, Tommy 1-5 in his last 6 TV matches.
In all fairness, though, his last show, which was in Medford, he bowled a fantastic game, had to double in the 10th. He gets the first one. The second one, he throws it perfect for a ring 10, and Pete wins that title.
Won at 265, 256. January 18th, 2004. After defeating Brad Angelo in the first match. Last time Tommy was on TV, there's a 10-pin for Tommy Delutz Jr.
Figure it out.
He's ranked 11th on the tour this year. You see Doug Kent, a couple of bowlers who had thoughts about not coming back this year. Doug Kent runs 2 bowling centers in the Syracuse, New York area, upstate. And look at the big change for them. Doug, of course, won the Masters to begin the season. 2-season exemption and $100,000 as well.
I think if we'd all known Doug was thinking about it that hard, we might have played some phone calls and helped him along. All could have moved up a spot.
Yeah, Doug, I think you should really stay home.
All 10 down for the local hero, Tommy Delutz Jr. But how about the bowlers who are not doing so well? Mike Machuga withdrew, didn't bowl this week here on the island. And Patrick Allen, past player of the year, 36 in the rankings. Wow. So how the mighty have fallen, Chris, when it comes to PA.
Well, it seems like on the left, they're much tighter this year, and Patrick made some changes. He's trying to adjust to what's going on, but he's just struggling. His confidence is really off. Michael's got a tremendous physical game, and he's just been a little bit out of sorts. It won't be long, though, before either one of these guys are back on top.
No left-handers have won so far this year, Chris. 8 events, all righties. Norm Duke trying to continue that trend. All right-handers here today on this show. 5-man stepladder bowling.
It only seems like a perfect show.
That was Chris Barnes, ladies and gentlemen. Chris
Just
Barnes.
to clarify.
Just to clarify.
Norm trying to stay high. There's a 10-pin.
Just a joke, guys. Just a joke.
The righty-lefty rivalry rolls on here.
God, I can't wait to see the amount of hate mail you get next week, pal.
Just lump in with the rest.
Now, Jason Couch has been in the booth with us. We can bring him back here. We got an extra headset and have him give the lefties perspective. There's a 10-pin for Norm.
Well, this right lane has been kind of a bugaboo for Tommy Delutz. 2 week 10s back-to-back on this very lane. Left lane, he's perfect. What does he do? What adjustment does he make on this right lane, Chris?
Well, there was basically, 3 options. I guess he can get a little softer on it. He can use more tilt. He can make a lateral move to the right. The lateral moves to the right I don't think are working so well. I think he needs to get a little bit softer with the speed and let it give it time.
Trying to cut it to 9. He'll do just that. Perfect shot, Tommy Delutz Jr., who deferred his exemption for an entire season after the injury. In 04-05, last season, barely made the exempt list because most of his year was spent rehabbing and getting his wrist back into shape. And then he's finally healthy. What happens to the former All-American from William Patterson College in New Jersey? Pinched nerve in his back to begin the year. Acupuncture, other treatment needed, Randy, to get back healthy again.
Yeah, last season he actually clinched his exemption the last week because he took Tom Baker to a 7-game match.
Nearly a split. 4-pin, and he could have taken a lead.
And he really wanted that one because that, like you said, Dave, that would have given him the lead. Last time we saw a hit like that, Michael Fagan leads a 4-9. He only leads a 4-pin.
The other reason he really wanted that, because if that one holds there, it's on. He can keep up now.
There's the 4-pin for a bowler who's not won in 78 events. Part of the New York contingent here, making PBA history. First time ever, 4 bowlers from New York have appeared on one show. Last time it happened, 04 Medford. Who was on that show? Tommy Delutz Jr., along with Brad Angelo and Ryan Shafer. Who's our top seed? Stepladder Bowling continues next. Let's go on the road with an NA's PBA Tour. It's going to be after the holiday season, folks, after the new year. First event, second part of our season, National Bowling Stadium in Reno. And log on to PBA.com, ticket information for the Pro-Am, site of the best ever bowling movie filmed, Kingpin.
That is correct. And I can't...
Starring Randy Peterson.
Well, I don't know if I would say starring, but I can't believe that movie didn't win an Oscar. I'm sorry.
Or at least your part. Come on. Here's Norm. There's an 8-pin for Norm Duke. Out of the commercial break, had a 10-pin lead.
That's not very friendly. But the good news is he was on a spare, because when you're on a strike and you go stone 8, it doesn't make you very happy.
What's really impressive to me is how good Norm has been out of the commercial break. I mean, it's really the hardest shot to throw after you've been sitting down for 2.5 minutes. There's no practice balls in between. Get up and get right back into rhythm. So important.
Speaking of rhythm, didn't like what he saw there, so he'll step back and then nail the 8-pin for a single-pin spare to keep clean. We've got a great match in our hands. Third match of the day already for Norm Duke. And, Chris, there's a breakdown left and right lane.
Well, he hasn't had nearly the trouble that everyone else has. The right lane has been everybody's problem, and he keeps striking on the right lane, and that's where he picks up all his pins.
Well, call it what you will. That man right there is the Zen master of the hardwood, and he's proven it today.
Oh, how did that pin not go down? If Phil Jackson is listening, he might take exception.
I didn't mean hardwood in basketball. No. There was a time when the woods were made out of maple, and that's a pretty hard wood. Now they're made out of synthetics, so he's the Zen master of the synthetics. He's the Zen master of playing out. I can tell you that.
Definition of the paralyzer, guys. How did the 5 not drop?
It was slapped silly. Didn't know which way to fall.
It shifted, just didn't fall. And there's another spare, but the door is slightly ajar here, Chris, for Tommy Delutz Jr. with a strong finish.
Well, certainly more opportunity than he's given any of his other opponents, and Tommy's also hung around better than any of the other ones, too.
Tommy can actually strike out and win this. We're going at 247. Tommy Delutz Jr. can shoot 249.
10-pin. Well, the bowler who told us last night he's lost nearly 2.5 years of his career, prime years, because of the wrist injury.
Pretty good shot here, Chris. And I mean, that ball's starting to make the turn and behave properly on the right lane. Tommy knew that he made the proper adjustment. He just doesn't get the pins to cooperate.
Careful. Side of the pin, he'll take it. Careful's right, Tommy. He's a huge New York Mets fan. Joking with us last night when you drive by Shea Stadium on the Grand Central Parkway, you can see the opening from the outfield. He said if you look hard enough, you might still see Carlos Beltran with a bat in his shoulder.
Yeah,
Struck out by Wainwright there to end the NLCS.
I mean, it's one thing to be sitting at home rehabbing, but to sit at home and rehab and have to watch your beloved Mets lose in that fashion.
Huge Mets fan.
It's kind of tough to swallow, unless you're a Cardinal fan.
All 10 down for the local hero, Tommy Delutz Jr.
Well, we still have a match, obviously, and this is going to come down to who wants it more and who wills those corner pins over, because nobody has gotten less than 9 on any shot. There hasn't been a ball out of the pocket in this match. And right now, Norm controls his own destiny. Striking out, he'll be in the 240s, and he will shut out Tommy Delutz Jr.
Big strike.
That was
for Norm.
That was Pierce. That's money there.
Speaking of money, Doug Kent is the leader on tour. Great transition there, Randy.
Thank you, sir.
Norm Duke is 8th, along with Ryan Shafer right behind him. 2 bowlers on this show. Pete Weber took the week off, as did Walter Williams Jr., getting a head start on the holiday break. Tommy Jones won his 9th career title earlier this season. That was in Cleveland, and he sits in the 6th spot. Very own Tony Reyes. And his first title is number 7.
Mr. 300.
Huge. Wow, what a late help and hit on the 7th pin, helping Norm Duke out big time.
Well, that's the big lane for him. This lane hooks a little bit sooner, but it's flatter down lane. You watched this last time he paralyzed the 5. This time it shoots across, slams the 7.
Yeah, and with that strike there, he can't be shut out. If he doesn't strike in the 9th frame, Tommy could have struck out 9th and 10th and steal this match away.
All right, guys, foundation frame. Can cut it to 9. Big shot. 7 pin.
No luck for Tommy Delutz Jr. He's hit the pocket. He's made some great shots, and the pins have not fallen for him. Every ball in the pocket, it's either a weak 10, ringing 10, or a shaker 7 now.
Takes care of the 7 pin against Norm. He was 3-1 heading in on TV in his career, averaging more than 221 per game. He's won 2 titles, 99 Lakewood, California, and we talked about the Long Island Open back in 01. That long with Tommy Delutz.
Well, 3 strikes in the 10th here. He makes Norm show up and mark in the 10th. Anything else, Norm just has to keep it on the lane.
10-pin. Every break has not gone his way, and it's spelled disaster for Delutz Jr.
Yeah, it's easy to look back. It's 20/20 hindsight, but it looks like he's just overshelled a little bit. His ball roll's also a little bit too close to him. The ball's going through the pins a little bit flatter than it needs to, and it's costing him corners, and it's on both sides, and it's just devastating.
Well, a pretty good game for 2-0. But you're right. I mean, it makes all the difference in the world, and that's part of being a great player out here, is making that determination. Yeah, a lot of times it's a guess, but it's an educated guess. And through experience and knowledge, you make the right guesses more times than not.
Yeah, physical execution is one part, but you have to make great decisions.
Tommy bids farewell to the hometown crowd here. He's from Queens, New York City, about 30 miles away, and that's what Norm needs. Originally from East Texas, now Claremont, Florida. Norm Duke. How about 9?
How about a stone 9? And Norm's going through all the New Yorkers. I wonder if it's one of those things where, because when the New Yorkers move, they move to Florida. Norm lives in Florida.
Usually. Good place to go. He'll take on Ryan Shafer, the last standing New Yorker, who is the top seed. Can the top seed finally win a stepladder final? It's been 8 straight over 2 seasons. 4 this year, 4 last year. Hofer for the top seed in the last 8 to try to win as the #1 ranked player going into the show. Norm Duke has other ideas. Looking for his 2nd title of the year, 25th of his career, and
Merry Christmas to you.
it would put a strong hold on the Player of the Year race. I know it's early, 3 majors to go in the second half of the season, but he'd be the first to win 2. His opponent next, the top seed Ryan Shafer from Elmira, New York. Norm needs a break. He'll come back and go for a title. Ryan Shafer has won 4 times. One of the best on tour in terms of mechanics, but he needs to come through. With a big win today, we find out if he can next. Happy holidays from all of us at the Denny's PBA Tour and ESPN Live coverage. Columbia 300 Classic continues. There's Mike Saragano, GM of AMF Babylon Lanes. We thank he and his staff for a great job all week in hosting this event. There's Norm Duke. He is to the final against Ryan Shafer, leading us to the Geico Championship recap. Randy?
All right, Dave. Well, in match number 1, Norm Duke defeated Michael Fagan by the score of 248 to 184. Fagan opened early, could never get back on track, losing to the future PBA Hall of Famer. Match number 2, Norm Duke defeated Joe Ciccone by the score of 257 to 206. Norm continues to dominate from the outside part of the lane. And in match number 3, Norm Duke defeats Tommy Delutz Jr. by the score of 226 to 207. Norm beating 3 New Yorkers on his way to the championship match in the 2006 Columbia 300 Classic.
That's the Geico Championship recap. Coming up next, Norm Duke, Ryan Shafer. Can the top seed finally win, or will Norm win his 25th title? Welcome back, everyone. Live coverage, Denny's PBA Tour. Our last event before the holiday season takes us on a 2-week break. Dave Ryan, Randy Peterson, Chris Barnes off lanes in the broadcast booth because Norm Duke is on the show. And Norm has rolled through 3 competitors so far, all of whom are from the great state of New York. Last chance for the Empire Staters here. It's Ryan Shafer, top seed.
Dave, you're from New York. Syracuse.
I am. Thank
Man, you think I'd know that after this long, wouldn't you?
Norm tried to pull on the wrong lane. Wow.
So far, Fagan, Ciccone, Delutz Jr. have gone down, and Norm Duke, who started as the 4th seed. 1 more, and he climbs the ladder for a title. 10-pin.
That's the one thing that Norm doesn't want to see, is a weak 10. Especially when his eyes get real big like that, like he thinks he just cured it and he goes week 10.
Yeah, the key lane for Ryan is going to be the right lane. That's the lane that's been tighter down lane for everybody playing in. They have a hard time getting the 6-pin out of flat gutter to hit the 10. For Norm, it's going to be the left lane. His ball is hooking a little bit earlier in that lane. Gets a little flatter through the pins. He can kick out the 10 on that one. Gets money in the bank.
And Dave, Ryan Shafer is our #1 seed. He gets choice of what lane he starts and finishes on. And he chose to have Norm start the match, which makes Ryan Shafer finish on the left lane.
There's Michelle, his wife, to watch again. She was with us in Cleveland a couple weeks back. The event eventually won by Tommy Jones, but Ryan made that show as well.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, man, he just didn't like that at all. And
I don't want to do that.
6-pin count. What happened, Chris?
This is just a pitch out. We talked about earlier at board 8 at the break point, it's out of bounds. This one gets there and it's just accelerates from that spot.
Yeah, picked up speed like it was going downhill.
Oh, that could be even worse, fellas, than just a 6-pin count. Disastrous start for Shafer. Again, it's the top seed. The big theme of our broadcast today. Can the top seed finally win? It's Ryan. They're 0 for the last 8 over 2 seasons combined. And he does nicely cover, leading us to the Ace Hardware matchup. Norm Duke trying to go all the way, Randy, and run the table in the stepladder format.
Well, Norm Duke's going to have his hands full with the Bulldog Ryan Shafer. Shafer's got lots of TV experience. The only thing lacking in Ryan's resume is wins. I mean, that's it. Millionaire, made all the shows, just needs more wins to get on that same level.
4 titles. Last came Empire State Open 03. And a 1-pin victory. And guess who he beat? 10-pin. Chris Barnes.
Well, it's just kind of getting comfortable like we talked about earlier.
That's called a few times today. Sorry, partner.
They're just throwing that up there in the air. Or, okay, Chris, go ahead. 10-pin. That was another flat 10. You had a flat 10 from a guy that throws it straight and a flat 10 from a guy that hooks it both on the same lane.
I think this is just an adrenaline one. You come out, you haven't been on TV for a while, you're pumped up. It'll take a couple of shots for him to settle down, and from here on, I think you'll get a lot better.
So can the top seed finally do it? Chris, we talked about that top of the broadcast. There have been many different philosophies from these different top seeds. We asked all the bowlers about it. I thought Michael Fagan's answer was interesting, that sometimes you have a strategy throughout the week, and you carry that into your one game on TV, and it may not be the right call.
Sure, that's happened to lots of guys. The other thing that happens is there's a long break in between the last 2 matches, and the guy that just won gets extra practice that normally doesn't happen between matches. Interestingly, though, Norm didn't throw any shots in between. He didn't take advantage of any of that.
Yeah, it looked like Norm went off the set and took a break during the commercial. Didn't throw one shot, comes back, and it's flat 10, ring and 10. And I think this match here is all about Norm being able to maintain the same focus and mentally stay in the same place. Don't get jacked up. Don't get over anxious. Don't get too enthused or too enthusiastic about it. You got to stay in that same place that he's been at for 3 games. That same place meaning mentally.
This one, I think Norm is going to have to be Norm. You know, and what I mean by that is that he's going to have to be that Hall of Famer. His look is going away. It's not really 250 right now. He's going to have to will it into a 220, 230, 240 game, and whether that's enough to beat the voodoo roll that Shafer's going to need on that right lane to strike.
Shafer's got the voodoo.
Here's a strike first for this championship match for Norm Duke. The other finishers here at the Columbia 300 Classic. We should mention that Kelly Kulick, who was the first female ever to get the full season exemption, not on that list. Twice she made match play guys in the first half of the season at the Masters and in Cleveland. But it's been quite a first half for Kelly Kulick.
It's been tough. She's had to adjust to all the different transitions and everything going on. It's been hard on her.
Further out on the right lane.
Wheel that into the 1-3 pocket, and it barely got there.
That's the Ryan Shafer signature move there, Dave. He kind of turns that wheel a little bit, and then his ball normally goes sideways when he does that. That voodoo roll. He does have a lot more side roll or more axis tilt, a lot of rotation, a lot of side roll. Almost looks like he's spinning it somewhat, but I think that's what makes him stand out from a lot of the other players out here is that different ball rolling. When it works, you can't touch this guy.
Exactly. He controls the mid lane, even though his tilt's much further down than most of the other guys.
60 feet to success for Ryan Shafer. Boy, that smashes the 1-3 pocket. Pins everywhere. Best shot of this championship match. Things are awfully close. The exciting finals coming up from Long Island. Don't go away.
Not today, Norm.
Wow, how about that? During the commercial break, Ryan Shafer making a statement. New York state of mind here. First, Michael Fagan went down to Norm Duke. Next, Joe Ciccone, who's from Buffalo, originally from Skaneateles near Syracuse. Then, Tommy Delutz Jr. from Queens, New York City. 3 up, 3 down for Norm Duke. First time ever we've had 4 bowlers from New York State on one show. Last time it happened, 04 Medford, Tommy Delutz Jr. on that show. Who else? Ryan Shafer on that show. And Norm has owned Ryan on TV. And Chris, there's a little bad blood between these two, isn't there?
There was last year in Hammond. There was some pretty serious gamesmanship, some accusations flown. These guys got into it and really left a little bad taste, I think, in both their mouths. They want to beat each other in this one.
Right now, Norm is getting beat up by the 10-pin. Needed a strike there to stay even with Shafer. And Shafer made a pretty big statement there when he said, "Not today, Norm." It's almost like he's got the crystal ball thing going. He made that move to the right after the first 2 balls that he threw from in. Remember, he missed the head pin. He said, "That's why I don't want to do that." He moves right the last 2 shots and goes pack, pack. And then says, "Not today, Norm." Almost like he got the feeling like, you know what? I found it. I got it. And Norm, you're in big trouble.
Perfect shot. So focused, so motivated. Strikes there in the 5th. Shafer does work on a couple strikes here himself. So goes to the 5th frame, looks for the turkey, and can take a 20-pin lead on Norm Duke. He's had a fine season, 8th in the rankings, 6th in average. 3rd show of the year for Ryan Shafer. Oh no! Can you believe it? It's a 7-10.
Nice break, huh? Makes the move, commits to it, makes a good shot here, and just gets nothing for it.
5-pin gets trapped, gets in behind it.
But you know, from that angle, he's got to stay firm.
There's a lot of pins that have bounced out this weekend.
Bounce it out.
But didn't quite get the bounce out from the back of the pit there, so still, Jess Stayrook, 91, Tucson, Arizona, last to have the 7-10 on TV.
All right, this is what he did at the start of the match. Way in, he's at flat 10. He says, you know what? I'm going to make a move, and a bold move, commits to it, cures it, and that's how he caught his double.
But just like that, Norm Duke on the bench, 4-pin lead now. Norm has not had anything but a strike or just a single pin spare all day to shoot at through all of his matches. That's it. Big strike there from Shafer, bounces back from the open. Oh, but the door is open now, certainly.
Just one time.
Ryan frustrated. Look at that. 8 in a row. Last time, Chris Barnes, you did it. 05 U.S. Open. And the last one to do it, part of Tommy Jones' great start to the 05-06 season. Won 4 tournaments that year and took Player of the Year honors. 10-pin. Boy, had a chance to really put some distance between he and Shafer.
Well, this is just a product of all those earlier shots. His ball's picking up a little sooner, and it's He's playing shim to win. That one shimmed in a little bit too far. 6 goes right around the 10. It's hard to throw it much better than that. He's got to feel a little helpless from that angle.
Norm's 13th single pin spare conversion of the day. Right
Isn't that amazing? As he climbs the ladder, 3 New Yorkers down already, maybe a 4th here, but the lead just 4 pins because he couldn't strike in his 6th frame.
Chris, you see Norm looking at the lanes. What does he do? Does he make a change? Does he stick with what's got him to this point?
Norm's going to will this one in there. He talked about it. He's just going to have to make it happen. He's going to throw it a little firmer. I doubt if he'll catch it much more. I think he'll just get more direct and more at it.
Which is what he does. And a big strike for Norm Duke. Last time a top seed did it, 05, we showed you Chris Barnes in a great final over Patrick Allen. Wes Malott over Chris Barnes, Chicago. Tony Reyes over Wes Malott, Taylor, Michigan. Doug Kahn over Jack Jurek at the Masters, Walter Ray over Pete Weber, Japan Cup. All of those top seeds this season in stepladder play have gone down. It's amazing. Can Ryan Shafer change that?
No! God!
That was high. 4 pin.
Just a pinch. Wanted to double here, looking for a little help after that pocket 710. No! God!
The last shot goes by it a little bit. He pockets 710s, makes a little move off of it. It looked like it checked 2 feet, maybe 3 feet sooner on the lane. Almost had to hold up just to leave a 4 pin. I really like the move he's made. He's moved right. He's using some of what Norm has built out there to the right. He's the first guy to use any of that, and he's got a different angle. Certainly think it improves his chances, but his struggles seem to be like everyone else's on that right lane, and that carry is everything.
Game 1, boys struggle, hasn't he? In some of the games here, the average on this shark pattern has not been a whole lot higher. Under 200 in the tour qualifying round. Leading up to the stepladder play, round robin. Here's a big strike. All 10 down for Ryan Shafer from Horseheads, New York, near Elmira. Hometown of the late, great Ernie Davis.
For a guy that is really good at hooking it from in, Ryan Shafer showing some of his versatility, and that's about as hard as I've ever seen him throw it. He's moved right, and he's piping it pretty close to the second arrow.
Big shot here for Norm Duke, guys. It's the double, 14-pin lead. Has it. That is huge.
That one faced up correctly.
He got a little more aggressive with it. Not only with his swing and speed, but he got a little bit more aggressive with it at the bottom and got it to roll. And that one got up through him. No worries.
Well, it's his first strike on the right lane, and keep in mind that when it comes down to the 10th frame, Norm Duke has to finish on that right lane.
Remember Ryan had the not today Norm statement. Norm ignored him then. Now we're trying to let his bowling do the talking. Shots like that, he will. Has the turkey. Foundation frame strike. 24-pin lead.
Did you see that, Randy? Look at his arm swing.
Yeah, it looks like his arm came, the backswing came up a little bit higher. He's amping it up, and he said, you know what? I'm going to just bring the high, hard one, and I'm going to throw it right at the 1-3.
Shim to win, baby.
Back to Shafer. Come on. Oh, he almost had a 7-10 for the second time.
Whatever.
In the title match. And the deficit
Unbelievable.
will increase here for Shafer.
Right lane got him. That's what Ryan Shafer's undoing, is right there on the right lane. You know, without striking in that 9th frame, or in this 9th frame, he has virtually no chance to win this tournament.
There's the 7. Norm Duke, a chance if he runs the table here to surpass Parker Bone III for 6th in TV wins.
This is unbelievable.
He'll be up to 74 if he can take this one, and he's in the driver's seat right now.
Last time Norm Duke won sitting on the bench. Needed some help from Mika. Right now, Norm controls his own destiny. Got a lot of help from this guy right here with some bad breaks.
Oh, that's way off the mark, guys.
And a bad shot.
As light as it can be in a washout.
Yeah, this one just gets outside of that spot, that break point that we're talking about at 8. That one gets to about 7 or so, and at that point it just accelerates all the way through.
Just pure frustration from the right lane and the bad breaks that he got on the right lane. And all coming out in one shot. Norm Duke is your winner.
He sure is. On the bench again. Just like in Hammond, Indiana, Norm Duke with a washout and the open from Shafer. Needs all of 1 pin to wrap it up. I'm quite sure he'll get that. And how about Norm, folks? Climbs the ladder. Wins the 2nd title of the season. Continues the extraordinary frustration of the top seeds. They'll now be 0-9 in stepladder play over the last 2 years. Silver anniversary win. That's a special number 25 for Norm Duke.
What a fantastic performance today as he went right through the field, did his own thing, and made excellent shots all day long.
Lays waste to the New York Staters. All gone. Goodbye, Empire Staters.
Almost like he's saying, hey, I could have beat you from in there today, too.
Shoving it in his face maybe a little bit, huh?
Norm Duke in a New York state of mind. How about it? And by himself in 9th place all time. Denny's PBA Tour title list surpassing his great buddy, Ryan Voss. Guys, what a day for Norm.
Like Chris said, you know, he built something for himself, but Norm made shots. He cured it all day today, made the right adjustments, and never threw a bad shot.
On the backside of the Christmas break, we'll be with you from Reno, Nevada, the Bowling Stadium. Can't wait to see that great event. HR Block Classic on ESPN. Coverage starts after the holidays. Have a great holiday season, everyone. We'll see you for live coverage in the new year. Norm Duke has taken it as he wins his 25th career title. It's been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. Now for the entire crew, Chris Barnes, Randy Peterson, and Dave Ryan saying so long. Pinnacle Exceptional Driver Championship coming up next. From all of us, the Denny's PBA Tour and ESPN. Happy holidays, everyone. Enjoy your Christmas and your holiday season. Happy New Year. Norm Duke a winner.